Good evening, everyone. A quick sound check. I hope I'm audible. Great. Just give me a few more seconds before we can start with today's session. And we will be talking about what has happened in February. We will look at the monthly profile of both Nifty as well as Bank Nifty. And we'll do a review of what happened in February. And then we'll look forward to what we can expect in March. So we've had a good start to the month of March today. It was also the new series as well as the calendar month. So let us see how good a follow-up we can get in the coming days. So what you have on screen right now is the monthly market profile chart of Nifty Spot. I have increased the TPO size to 12 so that we can see the chart in one screen. Otherwise, the recommended TPO for a monthly chart would be 4 or 6. So you can see the monthly profile of Nifty is looking at a well balanced Gaussian curve. So a Gaussian curve is a bell curve, which means that the both buyers and sellers are in agreement and they have formed value where they have come to a place where they are agreeing that this is a fair value of that particular time frame. So how do we watch what happened, how February started, and what did we do in February, and how from when do we realize in February that this is not going to be a one-sided month but a two-way month? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just splitting the monthly chart. So right now, just like how we have every 30 minutes as one TPO on the daily market profile chart, we have every day as one TPO in the monthly market profile chart. So here we can see the start of the month of February was actually bullish. So this is the first day, A period. And what we did, the first day we moved out of previous value. We can see this is the value of January. So we came above previous value and we went on to make new highs on the second day. But that was it. What happened after that, we did not find any continuation. And we left this small responsive tail and we got back into this January's value. So we went on to make this low of 21,530. So we again here what we did was we could not sustain below the POC of the month of January, which was at 21,635. So we needed initiative selling over there for a more probe to the downside. But after we made that low of 21,530, we again got back out of the previous value. And since then, we have remained above the January's value area high. So in market profile, we look at value and we don't look at price. So on all time frames, we take a top to bottom approach, top to bottom approach. We look at the monthly, then the weekly, then the daily. And then we see how value is being formed on each of the three time frames. So here, once we got back above January's value, we were again bullish. So then we went on to make these new all-time highs. So I will quickly go to the daily chart and explain how we change the bias on the daily when we made these new all-time highs. Because to continue higher, we need demand. And how do we get signs of demand? We get signs of demand by either a initiative buying tail, which is the A period tail, or we get some extension handles, or a failure by the sellers, which gets the buyers interested. So here, after we made this new all-time high, we left again a responsive selling tail, and we came back to close right in the middle of the profile. So on the monthly time frame, we have formed what we call a neutral center profile, because we tried to extend the range on both sides, but we have come and closed right in the middle. So in market profile, a balance leads to an imbalance, and a imbalance leads to a balance. And this happens on all the time frames. So once we completed this profile yesterday, and we knew that this is a nice balance that is being formed, immediately we made note of the important references. What are the important references when you finish a month, calendar month? First thing would be the POC. These references are good for all time frames, so we make a note of them on all time frames: monthly, weekly, daily, in fact, even on the 30-minute order flow charts, we look at the POC and the VWAP of the order flow bars so that we know that if the buyer or a seller remains in control or not. So the POC of February came to 21,930. So 21,930 was the POC of the monthly profile, and the series VWAP of February was at 21,956. So the reason both of them were together was because we formed a balance, and that is and we also closed right there in the middle. So it was very clear that there is a very good chance of us getting a move away from this balance in March. So I'll just go to the daily chart and explain. As I said, so this 23rd February is the day where we made the new all-time highs. So here you can see, after we opened higher and made these new highs, we could not find any fresh demand, and we left an A period selling tail. So in the futures chart, what we got what we called a failed auction, which is another very important concept in market profile. So the failed auction gives you a swing reference. It tells you that that direction is over, and now you can look for the opposite direction, and which can also be measured in terms of uh, ATR. One ATR and two ATR are the objectives which we look for when we get a failed auction. So here, although in spot we did not get a failed auction, we got a period selling tail. So it was very clear that there was no demand here at new highs. So once we opened below this value on the 26th, we knew that the sellers would try to strike here, and that is what happened on the 28th. 28th, if we split this profile, we can see this extension handle and which swiped through this 2-day value, and we went on to make these new lows. I'm showing you the spot chart because we have just started a new series. So I will again come to the March Nifty futures in at the end so that we can take references of that latest futures chart. So in spot, what we did was, when we started probing lower, first we tagged this VPOC of 21929, and then we tagged this. We broke, this was a field auction. What I was telling, field auction is a very important concept. On 22nd February, when we were falling, we left a failed auction at 21875, and this was right above this unvisited POC of 21861. So these are our references when the auction is moving in that direction, and what happens at those levels give us a clue of what we can expect next. So yesterday what we did was we continued the downside move. We had a trend day down on 28th, and then we probed lower. We made lower lows yesterday. Yesterday being the expiry day, we made lower lows, but we have something called the seaside setup. We call seaside the dhoka period because it most of the time it gives a fake move or a con move. So what it did was it tagged this 21861, and it left a seaside which was immediately rejected. So yesterday when we closed above the IBH, this was a FA at an important reference. So not only the monthly profile was a balanced close right at the middle in the at the POC, but this FA had given us a clue that the downside which started from this 23rd of February is now done. The sellers are not adding over here, and this was taken advantage by the buyers at the close yesterday, and they managed to close at new highs. So what happened today? We opened with a drive up. So the open today was not a surprise after you see the monthly profile, which was a balance, because we were expecting a move away from that balance. So what we did was, another point to note, I gave you the POC and the uh, VWAP of the February month. Another important reference what we take when a new series starts is a rollover point. How do we get the rollover point? We get the rollover point by looking at the maximum volumes which come at the close of an expiry day. So for example, yesterday the closing volumes which came in the last 30-45 minutes, the volumes there is what we take as a rollover point, because the maximum rollover we believe on an expiry day happens in that time period. So the rollover point for Nifty futures was at 22188. So that was the Nifty futures level. But in spot, we were well below this because expectedly we had a good premium which was there. So the open today was an open drive up, and we went on to make a trending move higher. We made higher highs almost throughout the day, and we took out this all-time high, and we have closed at new highs altogether. So when we look at the monthly profile chart, if I shift this to the left and we add today's profile, so what do we have here? So how do we go forward in the month of March? So first important thing would be this A period buying tail. This A period buying tail will have to hold for us to remain bullish for the month of March. And because we are already at new all-time highs in Nifty, the upside is open. It is clear skies on the upside, which we will be evaluating based on the daily range, the daily value, and the weekly range and the weekly value. So because we don't have anything, any prior references on the upside to tell that this was a previous supply point, so this is where we will need to look for, because this is a open sky. But yes, on the downside we can keep uh, having levels, references below which if we break it, the bullishness would get negated and we could look for a neutral time again before we turn completely bearish. So how long will we be bullish for the month of March? First thing, as I said, the A period buying tail of today should hold, and then on the monthly time frame, when we form the next TPO, which is the Monday's TPO, tomorrow we do have a special session, but it could be on very low volumes, and I don't think it will be of much importance. But nonetheless, Monday's range will have to be above this and hold this A period singles. Then we will shift on to our daily chart to see how good the auction is doing. Because a trend day does not have value, we will only look for the POC and the extension handle we have left today. So in spot, this halfback which you see 22251 is will be a important reference for the rest of the week coming by. So as we move forward, we will need to make higher references for us to remain bullish and for the auction to tell us that it wants to continue higher, that the imbalance is looking to continue higher. So I'll take a quick break here and ask you for any queries if you have, so that I can clear them uh, on what we have covered so far before we see the futures chart of March and then move to the Bank Nifty. So if there are any queries, please feel free to share them. So yesterday, the failed auction which we left here at 21860 was our reference, and then this value area, the POC, will become our lower reference in spot. And now here, starting with this A period buying tail, so this would be our support zones where we look for buyers to defend in case of dips along with these extension handles. So if there are no queries, then I'll move on to the March futures chart and see what are the levels we need to take out in them. So failed auction is a very important concept in market profile. As I mentioned, failed auction is telling us that one of the parties has failed. It is either the buyer or the seller. And how do we identify that? We have the first ever range in the market profile, which is known as the initial balance. So after the initial balance, any attempt to move out of the initial balance is looked upon as a uh, buyer or a seller uh, seller effort. So once, how do we calculate if they're doing a good effort or not? One is the time it stays outside the initial balance. If it is not able to stay outside initial balance for more than 30 minutes, then the seller or the buyer who has pushed the auction out of the IB is not doing a good job. And plus it has to extend at least to the 2 IB mark and the 3 IB mark. which if it is not happening, then you will consider the buyer or the seller not to be doing a good job. So this is just a first half of the failed auction. What happens next? Seeing that there is a bad attempt by the buyer or the seller, for example, yesterday we had this C period low. So what you ideally want to see is when you're breaking the initial balance low, you want to see more sellers coming in so that you can go even further down. So what happened yesterday was we didn't get any sellers. In fact, we got immediately rejected back into the initial balance. So that is the first sign that the downside is getting limited and the seller is not able to keep up the pressure. So so seeing this, then the buyers get that encouragement that okay, now the seller has failed, so now let us look if there is any more selling left or we can drive it higher. So what they managed to do at the close yesterday is push it back above the other extreme of the initial balance. So when you close at the other end, you have failed at one end and you close at the other end. So that is where you get a failed auction. That is called a failed auction. So this level yesterday, which was at 22,022 in Nifty futures March, was a failed auction. And the 180R and the 280R objectives from that FA was at 22239 and 222456. So if you see, today's high was exactly 22456, which was the 280R. So this FA has met its objective. Like I was telling, once you get an FA, you can also get the target, the objective what it can give. So once you the failed auction, we opened above this and we drove in the initial balance itself, we hit that first target of 22239, and then at the highs we went on to hit the 22256. So I think if we look at the highs today, 222453, so we missed that by 3 points. So this is how you look at the failed auction. So now here, this is our March profile Nifty futures daily chart. So how will we go forward? What do we need to look at in terms of the next week? So our first profile would be this today's profile, because this is a trend up profile. We will not consider this profile will not have any value because we have been trending higher all day. So we'll take this HVN, which is formed at the top 22443, as our immediate reference for the Monday open, and we will see if the auction is able to sustain above this or not. If it is not able to sustain uh, above this, that means that the longs which had entered had booked profit, and we may get a dip lower where the buyers can re-enter. So what are the levels which we'll mark to look for demand? One will be the single zone of this EP rate. We have this 22370 till this extension handle of 22340, and we have today's VWAP. A trend day VWAP is a very important reference. So this 22360 would be our main reference in case we are getting a pullback in the coming week. So on the pullback here, we have to find buyers coming back. If they don't, then that means that the buyers are failed, or the buyers who had created this trend day are no longer in the auction. So this would be our reference going forward next week. And this POC, as you see, is still at the bottom. So in case the POC would have shifted on the top, we could have safely assumed that most of the longs had booked profits. But with the POC being at the lower end, this is still looking as if it can give some more imbalance to the upside. So this is what we need to look for in the Nifty futures. So till we don't break this trend day VWAP, we are looking for more upside. And how we will calculate that is on Monday when we open, first thing is we need to remain above this, form higher value above this POC, and then make a range extension to the upside after the initial balance. So that is when we will keep taking the references day on day. And then once we complete the week, we also have a look at the weekly time frame so that we can see, we can have in mind what is happening on the higher time frame. Another important thing what you can do in keeping track of who is in control is adding a anchored VWAP. So what is an anchored VWAP? Because we can identify days from where the auction has changed the character, where from where it has definitely changed. For example, this 23rd of February was a swing high at new all-time highs. So from this day, the definitely the seller was in control. So what we do when it continues to fall is add an anchored VWAP at this swing high. So from there we can say that till the VWAP from that day is not taken out, the that party is in control. So I'll just give you a quick example of how we can do that. Create custom KRL and we select anchored VWAP, and I've selected the date, and I'll have a thick dashed line. I'll keep it as orange color, or we'll keep it as the green color because green is what the VWAP on the profile chart is also. So what we get on charts now is the anchored VWAP from that particular day. So if we take today's profile out of the picture, so if you see till yesterday, this was the anchored VWAP at close, which is 22209. So this is how you can have these references which will tell you when the one party is losing complete control, because yesterday we had formed overlapping to lower value. The only thing which was telling us that the seller has failed is the seaside extension. But today we had to be above this VWAP for us to know that the seller is no longer in control. So see how we have broken above this VWAP and we have remained above the VWAP. So what do we do now? Because this seller reference is down, we can add a new anchored VWAP at this seaside extension, which is a swing low. So let us add one new anchored VWAP at this reference. And the anchored VWAP we get from that day would be our reference going forward. So till we don't So as of now, the anchored VWAP is at this. This will get updated end of day. So in the evening, when we have a look at this, it will have a fresh anchored VWAP reading, which will include today's auction. So that also will serve as one important reference when we move forward in the March series. So this is how we will take the Nifty futures on a day-to-day basis. We have daily reports which go out where we talk about how the value is formed, what kind of a day was formed, and what are the business areas we can look for on that day. And then accordingly, we look to trade those references based on what the order flow is telling us. So this is about Nifty futures. In case you have any queries on Nifty futures, you can ask them, and then we can move on to the Bank Nifty. POC and HUN are not exactly matching as per. Volume histogram is just an indication of how much volumes are being formed, because we are looking at a very bigger TPO size. If you look at a TPO size of 1 and then look at volumes, you will, but more or less you will find the volume nodes bigger when the HUNs are there. Yeah, the TPO size has to be the correct one for you to get the exact number. Any other queries, guys, on Nifty futures of March? Adding these KRLs is a very important feature on the chart section, which I think we need to make utmost use of. So whenever we are getting these swing references, it will keep us in sync of when the swing is changing. So going forward in March, we are looking for more upside in Nifty. We have already made closed at new all-time highs today. So let us see how it goes forward. Yes, the anchored VWAP is an indication that from the time this new imbalance has started, the buyers can are still in control and they can come back. So it is not going to be a blind buy at the anchored VWAP. Whenever we are approaching the anchored VWAP, we will look for some fresh signal from either the market profile chart or the order flow chart. As I said, in market profile, we would need a period buying tail. If we are getting a dip at the anchored VWAP, when we get the A period buying tail, that is giving us confirmation that the demand is coming back. So any further queries, guys? Else we will move to the Bank Nifty monthly chart. We'll start with spot and then we'll move on to the futures, and we'll make a note of what identify targets through market profile, I assume, right? Yes, market profile. We have some setups which we use in market profile. For example, the initial balance will give you a target of one IB and two IB and three IB, and then we have unvisited POCs and VWAPs of important days, which will act as future resistance or support. As I mentioned in Nifty, we are in new highs, so it is clear skies. We don't have any prior references, so we will have to do with the objectives of what has happened the previous session. So from today's session, from the POC, we will look for a 180R move, the 280R move. We look for the similar kind of target from the VWAP of today. So accordingly, we will build the targets on the upside. Once we are done on Monday, we will have the first uh, day's reference, and that we can use it for the week going forward. And every day we will get confirmation whether we are extending on the upside or we have begun to form a balance. The POC at the top can still shift once we have a end of the day chart which is up. So let us wait for the end of the day before we have that conclusion of where the POC actually is. This is completely based on the volumes, and also the closing volumes was around the highs because K, L, and M, all of them were forming a balance. They were in the same range. So which is why the volume bar band is bigger there, whereas at the lows we stayed for a very limited period of time. So we you don't see that larger volume band there. So anyways, whatever said and done, the volume based value and POC and VWAP will remain important. And if for whether the POC is shifted to the top or remains at the bottom, both those levels are important levels which we will carry forward. So it doesn't matter if the POC is to see. We, as I said, we are still going to take this upper HVN as our immediate reference for the next open. So I think we can move on to the Bank Nifty spot if everyone is clear on the Nifty futures part. And for a day-to-day progress of what is happening on the Nifty futures, we, as I said, we have the daily reports which is published on the website under the forum section, and yeah, everyone has access to it, so you can go through that. We also have the weekly reports and the monthly reports, which mention the higher time frame references for us to make use of. So as we move forward, the three levels would be 22188. So as long as we are above the 22188, which is the rollover point for the March series, we can say that the buyers are in control. So if in a dip later in this month, we are getting some selling confirmations at 22188, it is only then we will change the bias to the downside. So the 22188 will be our first reference in the futures, and then you have the 21930 and 21956. So all these references would be mentioned in the report also. So you can have a revisit there anytime you want. So moving on, I will. So what you have on screen now, right now, is the Bank Nifty monthly profile chart. So Bank Nifty was never bullish for this month, for the February month. Whereas Nifty did start in a bullish way, it went on to probe higher. It made that matching high of January, but then it came back down. But Bank Nifty never got out of previous range or value. On the monthly time frame, we have formed an inside month, both range wise as well as value wise. And what we did in Bank Nifty was we have filled up previous month profile. Previous month profile, if you see, was a double distribution trend one down. So if you see this January profile, we opened around the highs, the POC remained at the top, and we went on to probe lower. We made lows. We in fact made a look down below the December lows. We made a new lows and came back to close in the lower segment. So this was a double distribution profile on the highest time frame. So what does the auction do? The market profile always wants to make a Gaussian curve on all time frames. So till the time it is not completed forming a bell profile or a Gaussian curve, it will fill up that zone before it moves ahead. So what we did in February was we filled up this double distribution zone, the DD zone. We had an extension handle at 47,010 in Bank Nifty spot, and we had a zone of single still 46,580. This was at the end of January. So what we did in February was, I'll just quickly split the monthly chart of February to see how we started and what happened. So as you can see, we took support at the value area low. We probed higher. We got into this DD singles. But after we made a high, we could not take out this 47,010, which was the selling extension handle. And we came back lower. We probed lower. This was definitely a bearish sign till we left this small tail at the lows, the H period lows. So once we left this tail, this is indicating us on the monthly time frame that the demand is coming back here, but this is responsive demand. So it went back and we tagged this extension handle. It probed little bit higher, but again it was not able to continue too much. And then like in Nifty, we saw it came back down and closed in the middle. So in fact, yesterday we made these new lows from where we got a good move higher. So if we stack this profile, we can see we have formed a 313 profile. This is also a neutral profile, and we have completely inside value and range. The value area is also inside previous month's value, and the entire range is also inside previous month's range. So even in Bank Nifty, we have had a balance. So from a balance, we can look forward to an imbalance in March. More so because we have had an inside bar uh, on the monthly in January. You can look for a good move in. We have got an inside bar in February. We can look for a good move in the March series. So what will it have to do? It will have to first negate this selling tail on the upside, or take off this buying tail on the downside for a further probe in that direction. So, and what will our objectives be? Because Bank Nifty, we have lot of upside still left. So on the monthly time frame, if you see, we have this POC from from January, which is at 48119. So this will be our objective now. So how long will this be valid? Till what time are we looking for that as our target? As that as our first of the targets. So I will tell you, first thing is we will have to mark the references for the spot monthly chart of February. So the POC of February month is lower at 45,700. 45,700 is the POC. And if you have a look at the daily spot chart, yesterday morning we left a buying tail right at that level. So that was giving us a clue that Bank Nifty wants to close higher into the expiry. So this is uh, the POC of February is at 45,700, and the VWAP of the February series is where we closed yesterday, which is 46119. 46119 is the VWAP of uh, February, which will be the important reference going forward. And then the rollover point. The rollover point for the March futures yesterday came to 46,610. That is where we saw highest volumes coming in. So 46,610 will be our rollover point. So these are the three references which you have to carry forward for Bank Nifty. So what did we do today? Well, let's have a look, and I'll also look at the daily charts so that we can. This is the monthly target which I'm giving you. The same thing we can see on the daily charts also. I'll quickly open a Bank Nifty daily spot chart. 22851 21851 was February futures low yesterday, so that is no longer valid, I think, because now we are in March, and it was 21843, not even 21851. 21851 was the initial balance low. The low we made later in the C period was 21843. But as we move on, as we start a new series, we are looking at the new references. So for the first week, I would suggest you use the series wise market profile chart, which is what I have done. You can see here I have the Nifty 28th March series. So here if you see the FA of yesterday, it is at 22022. So this is going to be that FA. So if you are looking for a T plus 5 revisit, that is not a kind of stone in the line. You will need to watch what the auction is doing on a daily basis. As I said, first is we have to accept below this. Then we have to break below this VWAP. Then we have to take out that rollover point of 22188. So it is going to be a step by step process, and we will have these references marked out. So we will see at every reference whether we are getting a selling confirmation or a buying confirmation. So only then will we be able to tell okay, this is on the way down to retest this FA. So yeah, this is the Bank Nifty spot chart. So I'm opening this only to show what the upside objectives could be. So here you can see these are poor highs on the 23rd of February. I'm just reloading because I'm not getting that. Yeah. So here 21st of February we have the poor highs. Then we have an FA on the 23rd. This FA was at 4727245, and then we had another FA at this zone of 46,745. So once we got this FA and we made lower lows, yesterday you can see we stopped making a range extension to the downside. The initial balance, we didn't have an A period tail, but we got a B period tail. This is also a part of the initial balance. So although the A period buying tail or a selling tail is the most important, this B1 is also as good because it is giving you that it is holding the first hour, and because it is coming right near this another buying tail of previous session, which was at 15th February. So here we made this range extension to the upside, and what I was telling, see, this was that 45700 where we left that buying tail, which is the monthly POC. So now this is how we use these monthly references and keep looking at what the market profile chart of the daily time frame is showing us there. So, and the same we do with the weekly also. If we today at the end of the week, we'll have the weekly value which is marked, and then we have the weekly POC of spot. So we would want the auction to remain above to this week's POC to remain bullish in the coming week. For any reason we come down below previous week's POC, we would not remain bullish, but we will look for a balance to form. So that is how we make use of multiple time frames, and we can also watch multiple time frames on the charts. So how do we watch multiple time frames? We have this two window mode which we can activate, and we can have the weekly on one side and the daily on one side. So although today's chart will be added only end of the day. So we know what the weekly value is, and then we compare what the daily is doing compared to the weekly POC. So this is how we will look at the multiple time frames. We can observe them even in a single window. So coming back to Bank Nifty, today's upside objectives were those FAs. We had two FAs which we had left. So those two FAs got tagged, and we went on to close above them. So this FA revisit which we were talking about, you can see this was on 23rd of February. So T plus 1, T plus 2, T plus 3, T plus 4 and T plus 5. Exactly on the T plus 5 days, this FA has got revisited in Bank Nifty. This is the spot. So how do we observe whether when we can expect that FA to get revisited? Certainly not when we are making lower value on the daily basis. So all these days we were not looking at that. This FA was formed, which was telling us, giving us confirmation that the buyer has failed again, so you can get another round of selling, and which happened in form of this extension handle here. So here you are completely on this side of the sellers, because you have got a fresh reference here. And only when we left this buying tail here will you start thinking about the FA revisit, because here we have not formed lower value, we have formed inside value, and then today's open was above yesterday's value. So these are the references which you will look for and trade off. And now you can see we have taken out this FA and then we have taken out this FA. So now when we have closed at the highs, we will look at what the earlier references were. And that is the reason I showed you the spot chart, and I was telling you the higher reference is the January's VPOC of 48119. So what happens when we touch that? Once we touch that, we see on the daily time frame whether we continue to form higher value or whether we are getting a uh, balance. Ankit, I just clarified your query. I think you have not understood. I even showed the Nifty futures chart. This is the Nifty futures chart of March futures. The level you are giving of 21,851 was of February futures. I hope I'm able to clarify what doubt you had. So we either take the March futures reference or we take the spot reference. The spot FA was at 21860. This is 21860. So 21815 is no longer a valid reference for now. So Ankit, can you give me a confirmation if I'm able to clarify your doubt? I'm not sure he's in. Anyways, coming back to the Bank Nifty chart. So what are the references going forward in the futures? So today, as you can see, we have formed a trend day. We have opened higher, we have formed higher value. And as in the trend day, we will look at the important references, which is the POC of today and the VWAP. So here you can see we have one FA here of 23rd, which in spot we have cleared it, but in futures, in the March futures, we have not yet cleared it. So that will be one of the first objectives, and we will need to see whether we are getting accepted above these highs. These are swing highs, so above these swing highs, if we are getting accepted, how do we tell whether we are getting accepted? If we are forming more TPOs above that level, that means the value is getting accepted there. That means the higher value is being accepted. So which tells us that the buyers are in control. And a similar thing in Bank Nifty also, from this swing low, we can take an anchored VWAP and we can plot it to know how long the buyers from this expiry day are in control. So the upside objectives will be, because we are not in no man's land, we have references on the upside. So we will have to watch in spot. If you see, we can also open the weekly spot chart and look for weekly POCs, or in the daily time frame we'll have to go back to where Bank Nifty was trading first. So this is the daily chart of Bank Nifty. So these are the zones where we would want to get back into. So today's high was right in this selling tail. So this high is around 47,600 in spot, which will have to be taken out. This was a big gap down open on 17th of January. So we made this uh, narrow range profile. So here again, I would want to bring back your attention about how the sellers failed, the buyers failed here. The seaside extension, what we saw yesterday on the downside, similar thing played out on the 16th of January. So from here, we made a big move down. So this is how we identify reversals, short-term reversals on the daily market profile chart. Whenever we see a buyer or the seller getting failed. So this is how we will take it forward and look for the higher objectives. I'm sorry, I think that is the spot. Quickly go to the spot TPO chart, because it is better to have the spot references handy when we are. Okay, so here you can see this is the weekly profile of that week from 15th to 20th, where we had this big gap down. So this zone of singles is yet to form value. So what we can look at going forward is 1 week where we form value in this zone. So currently we have made highs over here. This zone can get value formed in the coming sessions before we proceed higher to tag that monthly POC, which I was talking about, 48119, and the higher references above that would be these two weekly POCs, 48,312, 48,492. So these are our targets on the upside for Bank Nifty. And as we move forward day by day, we will keep revisiting the lower references we need to mark out. So any queries on this, guys? I've still not got a confirmation from Ankit if I'm able to resolve what his query was. So any queries on Bank Nifty futures or spot, you can please ask me and I'll try to answer that. Yes, unvisited POCs are important references when the auction reverse, because obviously you have unvisited POCs left when the market is in trending move. So that is where you leave the POCs. So that is when we were falling in January, we left these POCs on the higher time frame, and this chart is the weekly time frame. So they will act as probable objectives when the trend has reversed and it is moving in that direction. Yes, 48119, 48312, 48492. It is not futures, this is spot. Futures, we will have to, I don't think March futures will have references or January's dates, because these are levels which were made in January. So you can look for the spot references, 48119 spot, and even these two references. And as I mentioned, these reports are updated on a daily basis, where we mark these levels both in futures as well as spot. So do make sure you are making you go through those reports, even the weekly reports, so it will help you to stay updated with the new levels. Any more queries, guys? Because it's a Friday evening, I would not want to keep you waiting for a longer time. So if there are any queries, I would love to answer them. Yes, Jay, that's what we do is the 48119 is a target based on the monthly profile chart, correct? We split it then down to the daily time frame. So that is what I was showing on the daily time frame. If you look at the daily chart, now you know that your monthly target is 48119. So till how long is the target going to be valid? One thing, on a daily time frame, you need to form higher value, and then it needs to respect the buying references which the previous profile has left. Today we have had a trend up profile, so we have certain references which are left in the spot chart. For example, this is the buying extension handle, and then we have the POC, and then we have this zone of singles, and then finally this uh, AP rate singles. So we will need to see, first thing is, on a daily basis we'll have to respect these references and form higher value, and then we will have to make a range extension to the upside after the initial balance. So everything, we follow the same process in all time frames until the time we are not hitting that objective of 48119. Today's Bank Nifty, yes, this is the Bank Nifty chart, futures chart of today. Yes, there was some issue at the open in Bank Nifty because of that expiry date which was changed. It was on 28th before, but now from this month on, the monthly expiry of Bank Nifty will be on Wednesday. So there was that confusion. So because of that, the data of the opening period was missing, the first 15 minutes, I think, which I think should get sorted out end of day. So it'll get updated and you will have that A period data. Any more queries, guys? Thank you for the kind words, Aditya. We are looking forward to continue this way, to be able to reach out to as many people as we can to help them to gain insights about this process. Yes, HVN is also important, Balaji. As I said, irrespective of the POC shifting or not, HVN means you have high volume traded at that zone. So all of the HVNs we give importance, and we mark them on the daily levels when we look forward for the next day's trade. So, any more queries? You are free to get in touch with me on Twitter. My Twitter DM is open. My Twitter IDs are Tutam Goel. So I'll be happy to answer any queries you have. You can also mail to support@vtrender.com. So I think that comes to a close of today's session. I hope you all liked it, and you can keep joining us for these sessions we have, and we can continue the learning and growing together process. So thank you for joining us, and have a lovely weekend. Let us stay connected and let us catch up on the next week. Thank you, guys. Signing off.